So, Hanno, so why don't you tell the great people a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I am a comedian when there's not a pandemic. Well, I guess I'm still a comedian now. I do stand up and I write sketches, but mostly stand up. And I also go to law school. I'm about to start I'm on summer break, so I try not to think about it. But I'm about to be a 3L, a third year law student, and I have a podcast, and I live with my cat, Georgina, in South Philly. And I love fruit. I love
What,
eating fruit and
what's
doing
your
puzzles.
what's your favorite kind of fruit right now?
Right now,
Yeah.
that's a great question because generally I would say raspberries, but I've been on a blueberries kick.
Ooh, those are my favorite. I like eat those like it's my job.
Yeah, I made this it's called a blueberry crumble. I've been baking a lot during quarantine. Made this like lemon blueberry crumble. It's like a lemon crust, and then you bake. I know that's not eating fruit in the traditional sense, but I got really into
But you're
blueberries.
getting it in there, You're just like
Oh
layering it
yeah,
with
lemons
flour
and
and butter.
blueberries. So healthy. Yeah, I also forgot I had frozen mango in my freezer. So
Oh
I think
my
I'm going to make
gosh.
mango salsa.
There you go.
This is what I
So,
do now. This is my life.
so, the, but it
This is
sounds
my
like you do a lot in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just the comedy, but also law, and you also work for an entertainment lawyer as
Yes,
well, who's
I
actually
do.
in the podcast as well, coming out soon. Um,
I do indeed.
so you kind of are able to see like the entertainment world in many different like ways.
Yeah, yeah. I've been doing comedy for 6 years, so it's very
Hmm.
interesting. I mean, I started comedy when I was, well, spoiler alert, I'm 29. So I started comedy when I was 23. I, as a person, have changed a lot. Society has changed a lot. That was
Oh my God,
2014.
yes.
Yeah, so I've seen enough now in comedy that I feel like I have a pretty good idea of the industry, at least at the level I'm at. And I think I understand kind of where you can go in comedy.
Mm.
And then, yeah, being on the entertainment law side, I didn't really set out to go into entertainment law. It just so happened that I met Mr. Remick and through another student, and here we are. But it's great because I was interested in already in transactional law. So like contracts, instead of like going to court, like doing contracts, you know,
Right,
filing for LLCs, whatever.
right.
I'm not a real lawyer. He's a real lawyer. So I would listen to his episode if you want legal advice. Listen to mine if you want to laugh. Yes, but I was very interested in contracts and such already. So what's cool about entertainment is seeing it apply, or entertainment law rather, is seeing it applied to the thing that I do and I am passionate about.
Right. That's amazing. So, um, how does one even get started into comedy? Is it just like, oh, hey, you're pretty funny, you just go up on stage, or is there like a thing to it that people don't realize?
Oh, I love this. My comedian origin story. Well, I can't say how one gets started in comedy because it's so different. I do know friends who have had the, like, buddy at the bar say, you should go up and do open mic, and they do it. Or the person who was hearing their whole life, like, you're so funny, you should do stand up. I was someone that my whole life was telling people I'm going to do stand up. Like, I didn't wait for anyone to tell me I was funny. I was like, no, I have to do stand up. I discovered comedy at the age of 12. No, I'm sorry. I discovered Saturday Night Live in elementary school. My parents did
Oh,
not censor me at all. It was great. Um, I started watching SNL, loved it, was like, I can't believe this is someone's job. That has to be my job. Making people laugh is like the coolest feeling ever. And then I discovered stand up, and I remember it kind of clicking in my head that you can be yourself on stage and make people laugh. Like, that was just beautiful to me.
and you can make a living at doing that.
In theory, yeah.
In theory, yeah.
Allegedly you can. Oh my God, my Siri is like, I'm so sorry. That
That's
was
okay.
very rude, Siri. Okay.
She
So
does
where was
that.
I?
She
What?
likes she does that.
Well, I just got Apple Watch. My friend gave me her
Oh
Apple Watch, and
no,
I don't.
another one. Oh,
Oh, I turned off the text messages and stuff. I just like that it does my steps.
I just have
And
a thing about Apple Watches. It's like
why?
I'm already connected enough to things. I just feel
Well,
like
yeah, but
having
you
this
don't
like
have to talk to people. I turn my text messages and stuff off. It just tracks my activity, tells me the weather, that kind of shit. Oh, can I say shit?
Yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Yeah, no, I like it, but I have not read the manual. And so my friend is very annoyed because I keep texting her questions and she's like, you could just read the manual. She like sent it to me on my phone.
And you're still not going to read it.
Yeah, I will. But like random shit like that will happen between the like phone and watch. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I
Yeah.
don't know what's happening.
Yeah, for me, it's just like another thing to do. It's like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm telling you, it's like mostly the tracking of my activity / being able to see
Yeah.
the weather on your watch is so cool.
I don't know. I just like to look out a window for the weather.
What? That
Uh,
doesn't work.
yeah,
Not
it
when you're
does.
deciding what coat to wear.
Yeah, you stick your head out, and you go like, "Oh, it's kind of chilly. Let me put a coat on."
Okay, well, I live on the second floor, so I prefer to know before I get down the flight of stairs what kind of coat to wear. It requires outfit
I get it.
planning.
I get it. I get it. I don't get it, but I get it. First world problems. So
Yes.
you found out that there was this thing called stand up that you wanted to
Yes.
do, and you were telling everybody and their mom that you were going to be a stand up comic.
It's funny because yes, I was in elementary and middle school, and so I had to call my friends' houses to talk to them because cell phones weren't a thing, or I had to go to their house because they didn't live alone. So I was telling everybody and their moms. Ha ha ha.
But actually,
Yeah, no, I just thought that was hilarious and then went off with it. Yeah, I discovered stand up. I was like, this is it. This is for me. I used to write jokes and I was a bit of a loner, which I think a lot of comedians, everyone's journey is different, but a lot of comedians I've spoken to relate to that. A lot of us are observing things all the time. So I think that there's periods of our life, at least for me, I went through some challenges as a youth. I was maybe bullied a little bit and kind of took this role as like an observer. And I already was interested in comedy, but that fueled it even more. By the time I got to college, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. But in Philly, I went to the University of Rhode Island, but when I came home in the summer, all the open mics that I could find were at bars, so I couldn't get into them. So I just would try to like make funny skits with my friends and do whatever I could to just exercise that, desire to be funny. I would write jokes all the time, but I didn't first try stand up. Well, I didn't first try stand up till I was 21. And then I kind of did it once, like ripped that Band-Aid. It was so cute. My parents left me like a note above the stairs. They were like, whatever happens tonight, you did it.
Oh, that's really cute.
It was so cute. Like, that's what I mean. Like the people in my life knew I loved comedy. I remember years later running into a kid from high school and I was telling him I was doing stand-up. I'm like, I don't know if you remember, but I like used to love SNL and comedy. He's like, yeah, we were friends. We were actually I remember
We actually
that's all he talked about. I was like, oh, okay. Great. I'm glad I've had I'm glad I remember it like it actually was.
Right.
But yeah, so I tried it and I remember just being like, I can't believe I did it. And I didn't explode. Nothing bad happened. The intimidating part was not knowing anyone. So everyone kind of knows each other, especially at open mics. And I felt very kind of nervous about meeting new people and networking, and not even networking, but just like networking for comics is like drinking together at 1 a.m. at a bar, like I didn't really know how to fit myself into conversations. So it took me a little while to go back, but once I went back when I was 23, I just never stopped.
And it's interesting that you said that because of what your early life was, you became an observer. And I tend to feel like a lot of artists become that.
Yeah.
They kind of see the world in a different way, or they just take a step back and they really dial in like what they're seeing and how they're seing it. And then they express it as such, which I think that's the essence of comedy, right? Like a lot of comedy. I'm maybe essence is the wrong word, but like a lot of what material is based on is a different perspective of what's going on.
Sure. I mean, you're talking like about observational comedy.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So that's like definitely one prominent style of comedy and one that connects with people. What's cool about observational comedy, just as like its own subsect of comedy is that you can be observing about your own life. Like I tend to write about my experiences in my life, but I'll also make observations on like society and culture and all of that. I'm so cultured and refined. No, I'm kidding. I like make jokes about music I like and stuff. I used to talk a lot about politics pre 2016. And then I kind of just felt like on my podcast, I talk about the news, and I in my mind, I'm the next John Oliver or something. But even talking about the news, I find that talking about politics for me just gets really emotional, and I try not to. I just try not to, in a way where, especially with a podcast where, the internet's forever, like people are going to hear me talk about this stuff. And my goal is to present the news. So I don't want to get into that. So as far as like, I think you asked me about the essence of comedy, and I was like, let me tell you about me. But yeah, as far as comedy.
I mean, this is the podcast talking about who you are and what you're doing. So
I don't know. The answer is I don't know what the essence of comedy is. I do think that observational comedy is a very powerful use of comedy or type of comedy, but so is like absurd alternative comedy and weird, there's so many weird people out there who make good stuff. I think the creative gene, any creative type, any artist, any comedian has to be observing in some way, even if it's like, okay, this sounds so inception-y, but even if you're like observing the reactions people have to the things that come out of your mind. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's not something where you're like, oh, I'm making this very like observational view of things that other people can relate to, but more like, oh, I have this weird shit in my brain. Let me let it out, and then I'm observing how people respond to it.
Yeah, and you kind of judge what your set's going to be based on that.
Yeah, that was the most I've ever said observation or observing in my life. Back to back. Wait, what were you saying? What did you ask me? Is that how I determine my set?
Yeah, like I find that like a lot of comics, like they get reps in, every night, and they kind of have like, okay, I have this is brewing in my head, or I had this written down, and then they, give the joke and they see how people react, and sometimes they're like, oh, okay, that one worked, or no, this one didn't work, and then
that's what I love about open mics is you just go and you write new stuff and get up, and especially when you're first starting out, like that's some of the only stage time you get. You're not getting booked on shows, and so you definitely want to be like carefully using that time, and you want to try. Every person who wants to start comedy that's listening to this, the first step, and I'm so sorry that we're doing this during COVID, is to get on stage as much as you possibly can. So like find all the open mics in the place that you live and go to all of them when you can.
All of them.
I'm not kidding. That's how I did. No, I was out like 7 nights a week. It was terrible. I was so tired all the time.
But, if you love something, that's what you got to do for it.
Yep. Totally worth it. Would do it again.
That's it. And
I'm like just learning to cook now because I spent the last years. I mean, partly I was lazy, but also like I was out there doing.
That's your excuse because you got open mic.
And then I went to law school. Okay, sorry.
Okay, Hannah. But it's really funny because I hear other comics talking. Like I just heard the Joe Rogan podcast with Kevin Hart, and other stuff.
Well, I'm the next Kevin Hart.
Right, of course. But what I think people don't understand is, anytime you see a special on Netflix or whatever like that, or you go to a theater to see a comic do their stand-up, they've been working on that for a year or more. And a lot of times they keep those jokes in their repertoire for years, and they keep going, and they're kind of known for those jokes. I think, a lot of people just, see comics as just like, oh, you're funny. It's like there's a lot more work than just being funny. Now, okay, so
also it's a different kind of funny. Like I'm funny in conversation, I think, but being funny and writing jokes, I think it's like a totally different muscle.
Yeah.
There are so many people who are so funny, but stand-up would probably not be the medium for them to express it. And I think that that's the other part of stand-up that I really like is the effort and craft it takes to write jokes. Like my brain just it's like anything, like it's a muscle that you're working out. So like once you learn, there are formulas for writing jokes. There are like methods in which you can enhance something that's already funny and make it in joke form. Like for example, the rule of threes. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you give
Explain
3
it.
examples of something and then the third one is a funny one. So, oh, now I'm going to try to improvise it and I know I'm going to do it
No, you
wrong.
don't have to.
No, I want to. Okay, so
If these are bad jokes, don't worry about it. This is just a work in progress, right?
did you say these are bad jokes?
I said if.
Oh, what? I was like, that's what a bummer. These are bad jokes.
No, I'm not rating your comedy even before you say anything.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to do it later naturally when it comes. You're going to hear it, guys.
Okay.
Mark my word. I will do a rule of threes in the moment.
Go ahead. That's fine. So,
Later.
so you've been going to, open mics. You've been kind of finding your niche. You've been finding your voice and your people. What happened after that? Is it just like you just keep going? Like how do you build yourself more and more? Is it just networking, or is it just going to different states? How is it?
First thing is being funny. So people at open mics, especially in Philadelphia, and I've heard this is unique compared to other scenes, but a lot of our open mics are curated for the first half. So they go in an order that the hosts select based on who comes to the mic, who's funny, and like things have changed a lot now. So I'm speaking presently I'm speaking about the past. Presently it's very different, but in the past, these used to be all run by men. There used to not be many females. And I would regularly go to shows where I was brand new, or open mics where I was brand new to comedy. And I would watch like 12 dudes go up and not one woman in the first half. But I knew also I wasn't that funny yet. So that was like, you got into the first half by being funny. And I think like that motivated me even more because I knew there would be real audiences in these rooms for the open mics. My favorite mic ever is Fergie's Pub on Sunday nights. I love that open mic, and I've had some of my best sets there. But going there, like they will get a Sunday night audience who wants to come and hear comedy, and then the open mic portion will, if you're gonna do comedy, you're gonna end up being out till 2 a.m. some nights. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
Especially when they're putting the list in order. But after that, then there were people running independent shows, renting out venues or at restaurants. And then there are, the big major venues. At the time, there weren't as many, but since I started comedy, one of the big changes for me was when Good Good Comedy Theater opened in Chinatown. So the two owners, the two co-founders, Kate Banford and Aaron Nevins, started this theater. And it started with, they were renting out theaters, Plays and Players Theater in Philly.
Yeah.
And doing $5 comedy week. So like anyone could pitch an idea for a show. You would pitch your idea. And I pitched this idea for Your Mom is Funny. It's like a game show with comedians and their moms. My mom and I would host it. And they selected that. So for $5 comedy week in July of 2015, we did Your Mom is Funny. And right after that, Kate and Aaron started renting out theaters monthly. And they were like, we want to be like a production company, put on monthly productions. And so Your Mom is Funny was one of the first shows that went for that. And then they announced they were opening a theater, and then we got brought into that. So that was a huge thing for me to feel like, okay, I have my own show and I'm kind of moving up in some way. And then just really it's like doing the stand-up grind. And like, the Philly's Funniest competition. I remember doing that like 2015 and doing okay. And then, getting a nice tape out of it and going from there. And like, you're just always looking for new opportunities to promote yourself, to be like, anyone would get worried about the scene and all the politics of it. And it can definitely be stressful, but it's mostly just my motto now is like, be funny and nice to people all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's just exclusive to comedy. I see the same thing in acting, same thing in dancing.
Right.
If you're a dick, like I mean, unless you're unbelievably funny, if you're a dick, like, but like you're going to have more problems down the road. But you
Yeah.
know, it's just,
No,
I
it's
don't know.
definitely beneficial to be a kind person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, a lot of times I try to work in a way that, um, where am I going with this? My point is, you talk about the grind. You talk
Mhm.
about the day in, day out. Is it always being out at open mics, or is it like some nights you're up late, or is it just a constant 24/7? Like you wake up in the middle of the night. Like, what is that grind?
Wake up in the middle of the night for what?
I don't know. Like you have a joke idea,
Pee? Yes, I always have to pee. A joke idea?
yeah, or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I have like random notes in my phone from ideas I've had, like especially while I'm falling asleep. But as far as the grind, I mean, for me, the hardest, I like to go to bed early. So for me, the hardest part, my first couple of years was like adjusting my sleep schedule and just
Mm,
accepting that like this was the way you work up. This is the way you work yourself up. You just like go up at midnight or 1 o'clock and you do your 5 minutes or your 3 minutes and you just hope that like being out and showing your face at the open mic will get you a better spot next time. And maybe on that better spot, someone else will see you. I think that it's interesting because now when I started, it was definitely more Facebook than Instagram. Instagram like has become the new thing. But I think like engaging with each other's content on Facebook helped. Like I would like, retweet a comic that I liked in Philly or something or like message them something, or someone writes a post and you like go in the comments and try to be funny there. Like I feel like as a community it's networking in a different way
yeah.
because like we all go to the same open mics. Like I would see some comics way more than I would see my like family and friends. So it's kind of this weird, it's just a weird kind of cohort of
Mm,
people. And there's some people you go to open mics and you would see them every night. Um, or there's some people who come in out of nowhere and they're just like so funny and then you don't see them again for a
yeah.
while. Or the people who are like higher up would come in. It's a very interesting world. And I think the grind was also figuring out and trying to make sense of this world. Like I'm very much like a logic-based person where I'm like, well, I don't understand. How do I move up? If I'm not like,
Right.
someone explained to me how I move up. And it's like, you gotta just, I was very eager and I was also like 23 with this energy. So I was like, everybody explain this to me, help. And it's like, if I could go back, I would tell Hannah to just focus on just HT, just get funnier.
But
And then I did, and that was great. And now I'm funny.
also it's a good thing to be eager and to ask questions, because a lot of times, like for me, I mean, to a point, I mean,
To
you
a
don't want to be
point, yes.
annoying. You don't want to be annoying, but
And I sure was annoying. I sure was.
but it's good to ask questions. Like if you make friends with somebody, be like, hey, how does this work? Like
Yeah,
that's okay.
sure. Asking questions is great. I'm a huge proponent of asking questions. In fact, because of my eagerness, I get very excited about everything. And so comedy was no different. I was
Really?
so excited yeah, woo! Okay, I was so excited to be involved and just to figure it out and like make sense of it that, yeah, it was definitely super annoying to people. One thing though that, like, I don't find questions annoying. That's not the annoying part. I
Mm,
was like just kind of an annoying person and a little
mm,
intense about it. But I love when younger comics, and I say younger, not age wise, like newer comics, ask me questions because it doesn't super make sense. Like I needed a
no.
lot of people to explain it to me. I also was grateful because in the beginning I was very intimidated talking to people I didn't know, and I had some male friends that helped me kind of acclimate, and then I was able to meet a couple female comics because the experience for female comedians is inherently different, and especially back in 2014 was very different than it is now. For about my first 2 years of comedy, it was like not cool to care about women. No, I say that
Yeah.
flippantly, but I actually mean like there was not a network and a having women's back that there is now. So I definitely struggled in that way. And then just meeting female comics and meeting new people and just trying to listen and ask when appropriate definitely helped. And also like I said, like I was 23 when I started stand up. Like who isn't an idiot at 23? So you think about,
I
you
was.
know, yeah, I'm like still,
I'm
I
still an
like
idiot
still,
sometimes.
yeah, I'm still an idiot. I was going to say, I'm still like embarrassed about random shit that like I look back and I'm like, oh, that person never knew that I got older and way less intense, but oh well. Yeah, so I just think about like as I grew as a person, I was working full time as well, and it's just interesting to see, you know, this sounds so cheesy, but like I grew up, my adult years have always involved stand up. Like I'm
Hmm.
growing as an adult and stand up has always been there. So it's just really interesting to kind of
Yeah.
track those things together, like my life progress and then stand up.
It's really interesting you were talking about back in 2014, like it was decades ago, but it was still like women were still not respected.
Well, I mean,
What
when
it
was the
sounds
Me
like.
Too movement? Like 2 years ago?
Yeah, but even then, like you would think, and it really gives respect to all the other female comics that have been around for so long.
Well, it's not that women weren't respected. I don't mean it. I don't think I want to just
But it
cut
was
in
different.
that.
It was
I
different.
think that starting stand-up comedy in like dingy basement bars as a young woman in 2014 was way different than it would be now. And I don't necessarily mean that I wasn't safe, though I will say at times I was put in uncomfortable situations, but I would say like it was it was more the idea that if I was mistreated in some way, I didn't really know who I could tell about it that would be able to have my back, because you risked being like not put on shows or something like that. And so I think it was very much like unless there's something egregious that happens, but even then, like women didn't always feel comfortable expressing
Right.
egregious things that would happen, because you would risk like, well, that guy's really well liked in the scene. And that was very much, and I'm not talking even necessarily about the Me Too movement, but like if someone like screws you out of a spot for something, or if like someone like is an asshole to you in some way and he's a well-liked dude, it wasn't worth talking about to people,
Right.
even if you
Yeah.
knew like what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's like it's really interesting to see, but that said, like I think 2014 was when Amy Schumer blew up and was like the first woman to sell out Madison Square Garden. Women have been doing comedy for a long time, and there are always going to be those idiots who are like, women aren't funny. But yes, in 2014, like I saw plenty of women kill. It was not like people still had that archaic of a mindset. I mean more behind the scenes.
Mm. Are there any comics you try to emulate or, have mad props for?
Yeah, I mean, the question about trying to emulate is hard because it's like in music, like you don't.
Yeah, you can't be exact,
Right.
but you can like pay homage. Like I know that like there are certain like actors that kind of fit like a certain group, or
Yeah.
I'm sure same thing with comics. Like some comics have a certain things about
Yeah.
them that kind of
Yeah. So
were put into.
the two comedians that I would say really inspired me when I was starting to write jokes, this was like before I tried stand up, were Natasha Leggero and Chelsea Peretti. Both of them um, they're very different. They're actually, I think, very good friends, which is cool, but they're very different, but they both have this, they're not super self-deprecating. They're both kind of like, Natasha Leggero has this whole persona she does, this like uh, grand New England money kind of
Mhm.
thing. And she's very observational. Chelsea Peretti is just like her stand-up special. I think if you haven't watched it, pause this and go watch it right now. It's called One of the Greats, and it truly is like one of the best specials. But her whole thing is she's like so overconfident. Like she's like, I'm one of the greatest comedians of all time. And so both of them have these very unique uh, perspectives. And I think my jokes are so different from theirs. Like I write about such different things, but both of their attitudes and styles have very much influenced me. And in fact, Chelsea Peretti, I did an impression of her. I've actually impersonated both of them at these like Halloween shows they used to do, where like local comics would dress up like famous comics. But the Chelsea Peretti impression I was surprised came so easily because our voices are similar. And that was like really fun. Once I realized like, oh, I can totally sound like her. Some of our mannerisms are like just breaking into voices or whatever. So those two are my favorite, definitely huge influences on me. And then I would say as far as joke writing, I'm nothing like him, but John Mulaney is, in my opinion, like the best joke writer that's ever existed. So, I mean, I could sit here and just list names of comedians I love, but I would say those three are top notch for me.
So how would you describe your style of jokes?
Funny.
Repertoire.
I write very short
good.
jokes. I write short jokes. So I write jokes about my life, and I tend to write like, I don't know, do you want me to get technical? I feel like it's hard to explain I'm not good at being like, here's my style. I'm just like,
it's hard for anyone to really like say, because you kind of have to see yourself from a third person. But like, you know, you were talking about observational comedy. Like, what kind of are you just a storyteller with jokes, or okay? So just explain.
Well, I might talk about like I'll try to talk about stories like. Okay, yes. I said no way too quickly. I think of storytelling as a longer narrative form of either joke writing, or like sometimes storytellers don't do funny jokes. Like I've done storytelling shows, which are fun, but so I don't consider myself a storyteller. As far as my joke content, yes, I will definitely tell stories. I have been blessed to have some crazy shit happen to me. And I have said in those moments, wow, I am in emotional pain, but fuck, this is so funny. Yeah. This is so awesome. And I tend to write when I'm sad, for sure. Like I did a show 2 years ago at Philly Improv Theater. I wrote a show and performed it. I did like 2 nights, Friday, Saturday, and it came from 2017 was like the worst year of my life, right? And so I had started writing stand-up about it, and then someone saw my stand-up and was like, you should think of making this a sketch. And so it kind of evolved from there. And yeah, I did an hour-long show about my life. I actually had actors in it with me that played like my ex-boyfriend and my roommate, and I had someone play Bruno Mars, who appeared to me in a dream. So yeah, I think that like, for me, I definitely write about things that are not super happy or stories that are really crazy, but my technique is like I write short jokes. So it'll be like 4 jokes about one story, and then, but each of them have a punchline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I didn't know about that from 2017.
Yeah, it's it was in the paper. It's on my fridge.
Yeah, I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, I so it was actually January of 2018 that I did it. And it was called The Way I Remember It, and I wrote it and created the whole thing, and it sold out both nights. And
nice.
Yeah, and it was also like a really emotional experience for me. Once I was done with it, I was like, okay, I never want to think about this stuff for like 6 months. Like it was like I ended the year on 2017 on a high note, but the show took place from May to November, which were like easily some of the worst months of my life. Yeah, worst 6 months of my life probably.
But like you said, like you were
actually no, only April and May and June were bad. Okay, sorry. Continue. Go ahead. I said what? Sorry.
You were saying that like some of those like you were having these terrible times, but they played so well within your work, and you know the same thing goes for any artist that I've met. You know, some of their worst experiences, they're able to translate that into their craft.
Yeah.
You know, actors are case in point. You know, we're constantly having to relive certain types of traumas in order to, you know, convey, you know, and push a storyline forward, you know, and it's really interesting to hear that some of your worst moments are the fuel for some of the greatest forms of expression. So
yeah,
I always tell people, you know, some presents are wrapped in sandpaper. You know, there's always a silver lining to stuff.
Totally. Yeah, it's so interesting. So like, it's funny because I always say, Like I write a lot, like anytime I've had a breakup, with the exception of like one, I'll write jokes about it. And they're always, and especially like the last couple of years, I've dated some crazies and they do crazy shit. And then I get to write jokes about it. And my brother, the last relationship I went through, or the last breakup I went through, I like texted my brother like a joke immediately after we broke up. And he was like, oh, that's really funny. Like, I know you're sad. And then I was like, can you imagine if, no. He was saying like, you're funny when you're sad. No, he wasn't like, haha, it's funny you're sad. He was like, wow, that's a really funny joke. Like,
no, like your brother knew that you were having a bad time because you wrote a joke.
No, well, it was breakup related. I'm trying not to like deliver it here because I feel like that's weird.
That's fine.
And I would have to tell the whole backstory, but he was like, you're really funny when you're sad. And so then we started like making jokes like, dude, with all my breakup material, can you imagine if I got divorced? Like I would write a fucking book. Like I would end up with an hour. I mean, I've done an hour of stand up, but about many different topics. I feel like I hope to never get divorced. But if I do, wow, there's going to be some badass art that comes out of it. Because I am somehow just very amused by breakups. It's like such a coping mechanism for me too. It's like crazy things happen that don't make sense to me. And I'm like, in order for something to make sense to me, I have to make jokes about it.
So fellas, if you want to get a little bit famous.
Oh, baby. No, thank you. The last thing I need is some crazy. Okay, so let me tell you about my last breakup. The last breakup. No, I feel like it's worth.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't do stand-up right now, so I really hope everyone enjoys the story. I went through a breakup with a guy who lied to me about going to Belgium. He told me he was in Belgium.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah, I told you about this. And on my podcast. Yeah. And he had never left the Philadelphia area. He was in Doylestown, PA. So thank God that happened to me so that I could write jokes about it. Then I dated a guy who on our first date gave me a concussion. True life. Gave me a concussion, I forget I'm on camera, I can point. His head hit my head. He was trying to kiss me. His head hit mine here. I had to be on bed rest. This was like this time last year. I was quarantined because of a concussion.
2 years in a row.
I know, right? May 31st, not a great day for me. Last year, I mean, this year, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. Like these things happen and they're so crazy. Like you tell someone that story, they're like, "Nuh-uh, are you kidding?" And I'm like, "No, that's the coolest part is I'm not joking. That actually happened. And now I get to make more jokes about it. It's awesome."
And, a lot of people say that laughter is the best form of medicine.
Yeah.
So
they've never tried Klonopin. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I hear it's pretty dope. But yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. So, you work, with Mr. Lloyd Remick, who's an entertainment lawyer.
Yes, I do.
How has that changed, like how you see yourself as an entertainer and more importantly as a business woman?
Has that episode aired before mine?
It will be.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I just want to be I want him to speak for himself. He is a remarkable person. Yeah. What was your question? How's that changed? Well, everything about working for Mr. Remick in particular is wonderful and has changed my perspective on so many things. He is a fountain of knowledge and a true delight. But as far as working in this industry, it's just been very interesting to see it from the legal perspective. I mean, what I like about law is just learning how things work. So for me, kind of learning the background of things, whereas I'm, usually one of the clients, like performing on the other side, has been helpful. I've learned a lot of lessons just about, protecting yourself and how to get your name out there and little strategies you can use. But then, the business side, like, when is it a good idea to incorporate yourself? Like, form an LLC? Like, when do you need to trademark something? What are the expenses to do that? So
when is a good time to do that? Like, is there any good time, or is it just you just do it? I'm
like not a lawyer, so
that's fine. Like, we're all.
Yeah, but you had a real lawyer on. What I would say is, from my experience, it totally depends. That's the number one answer in law school to everything. It depends. Lawyers say
It's
that
true.
shit all the time. It really depends. It depends on the person. It depends on the phase you're at in your career. It never hurts to protect yourself. Having an LLC can protect you from liability. It can protect, if you have a family and you don't want them to touch your assets, whatever. But also you don't have to do it right away. So
yeah,
as far as like, I don't, and the whole trademark thing depends on like, it's different for musicians and, it's like,
yeah. Well, there's nuances to each type of art form, of course.
right. Exactly.
So.
So it really depends on a multitude of factors of like, what's the right time for you kind of thing.
Yeah. So with that being said, what's next for Hannah Trav?
Well, I'll probably have a glass of wine, maybe take a walk. No, you mean next. I released a video on YouTube, a trailer for a Netflix documentary that I made with a bunch of very talented comedians and actors, all who film their pieces at home in quarantine. So please watch that. It's very funny.
What's it called?
It's called Independence Woman. It's on my Instagram at Wanda Cheeseburger. It's also on my YouTube, but I don't know what.
Oh, wait, hold up.
I don't know
what is the story about Wanda Cheeseburger?
What? What is the story about it?
What is the story about it? Like, who's Wanda? Where's the cheeseburger? Like,
oh, how did I get my name?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, I could make something up, or I could be honest and tell you it means nothing. I made it up. Okay, Wanda Cheeseburger originated from my brain at like 5 a.m. when The Dark Knight Rises came out, and they played it like every hour at movie theaters. You could it started at midnight, but then you could buy tickets to like a 4 a.m. show. I'm not even kidding. So I had to work that day. So I convinced my friend, because I'm not a late night person, I convinced my friend to go with me to see it at like 6 a.m. So we were sitting in the theater, and I had just gotten an iPhone. Like I'd gotten it the day before. And I was like, I want to make an Instagram. So I made an Instagram, and I thought at the time, I kind of regret it because I could be at Hannah Trav now, but I thought I was silly. So at the time I made it, and I was like, what's a funny name? And I could not tell you where I came up. I love cheeseburgers. I don't know where I came up with Wanda. It's a great name. I mean,
Is it like an alias that you go by?
Not really. I made a video in college. I made a public service announcement PSA video in college about voting. It was during the 2012 election. And the Lonely Island, I'm on a boat.
Yeah.
I made a song, I'm Gonna Vote. And so I put that on a YouTube page as Wanda Cheeseburger. I don't know if I thought like, oh, I don't want my name out there. I don't know. I remember like you're around my age. Like it was like, remember when you like were scared of people getting your information, so you like signed up with fake names for like my Amazon account used to be my middle name. Like it was.
And look at us now.
And now they have all my data. They're sending our fucking info to space with Elon Musk. I don't know how the space thing works, but yeah. So it's like, it was one of those things. I wish it was a better story. I feel so bad that you took time to ask me about that on your podcast.
Because every time you come across my Instagram, I'm like, what the fuck does Wanda Cheeseburger mean? Like,
nothing. I do love cheeseburgers though.
All right. Well, at least I got that. I mean, you can always change it to Hannah Trav. Like, it's still there.
People like it. People are like.
But that's the thing. People are like, where is this coming from?
So
like,
just let them. You know what? Let me make a story up. Actually, it came from. I had this.
I'll just edit that part out.
Yeah, I had this this nanny Wanda. She took great care of me. Made the best cheeseburgers. Oh my god, my parents would be like, "We did not have a nanny. Fuck you." I don't know. Oh man, I wish I was better at improvising on the spot. I never even did my rule of threes.
That's okay. We still got time. So I always give some questions. So
okay.
What like a couple rapid fire questions. What is one thing in the industry that you wish was a little different, or something that you could change?
Sexism. No. One thing I would change. Let's see. I think that I don't know. I think that it's an interesting question. I think my answer is I wish that there were more places to do comedy. I wish that there were more, but then it's also like everyone has a Netflix special now. So I think that my things that I wish were different are things that I've also tried very hard to accept as realities. Like, okay, I'm not working at this club yet. I'm not here yet. I haven't done this yet, but this is the way it is. And if I just, keep my head down and be funny and be nice to everyone and work on my projects, that'll happen. So there are definitely things I would like to change, but I try not to think too hard about them because they exist and that's reality, Just like the way, more like the transparency about if you're trying to get past at a certain club, let's say, and you want to get more work from them, I wish I knew more about, it's based on the manager, the staff. It's like, there's so many factors that go into whether they decide you're ready or not. I think one of the challenges I've faced over the years is just determining okay, well, what more can I be doing? That's something I wish that it wasn't in someone else's hands all the time. It's like you can only do so much. And I think that's and you don't know where you stand. And, I've gone back and forth over the years and it's luckily improved for me in different places. But I think that was one thing that was really, really hard for me when I started was well, I don't even know where I am at on your radar. I don't assume anyone cares enough about my success as I do. So I'm going to keep asking questions. And there's times where I should have known to just sit down, wait my turn kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's always hard to judge too, especially when you're starting out. What is one thing in the industry that you love that you just can't get anywhere else?
Comedy. I love I have the purest love for stand-up comedy. Being on stage in front of a room full of people is my favorite thing. Tied only by, not even tied, but second to, no, followed closely behind by getting my hair done, which is my other happy place. I love sitting in a salon chair. It is my favorite thing in the world.
Something therapeutic about that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, can agree with that.
Long ago, it just became my happy place. But there are times where I crave getting on stage. I for the first month and a half of quarantine was I'm not funny. No one's laughing at me. I haven't been that feeling. I'll go to open mics. I'll be so tired and frustrated. And I'll be you know what? I want to go on stage and talk about it for 5 minutes. And it's I did an hour of stand-up last January and then afterward went to an open mic to try a new joke. I was I just want to hit another stage tonight. It's addicting.
And that's...
Can you hear my neighbor's children? They are...
Yeah, a little bit. It's fine.
They're very loud. I like them, though. They're good kids.
That's cool. That's great. Yeah, so
one thing I love about the industry is just the industry that I'm in.
The industry itself, yeah.
The art form.
Is there any one, you kind of mentioned it, is there one performance that you wish other artists could watch or listen to?
One stand-up?
Yeah.
Watch Chelsea Peretti, one of the greats. Yeah. Watch John Mulaney, new in town. Do you want more?
If you got them.
Amy Schumer at the Apollo. Live from the Apollo. I don't know if that's what it's called, actually. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's so. Yeah.
Those are just specials that really influence me. It's also interesting because there are comics that even watching 5 minutes of them, I'm trying to think of Nikki Glazer's one. I love, she's so funny and she writes such short jokes that something of hers will come up for a 5 minute. Michelle Wolf is another one. So funny. Hannibal Buress is another one. I love him so much. I love Pete Davidson's new special. I also just have this weird obsession with Pete Davidson. I think that there's just so much good comedy out there. It's insane.
So, yeah, great. I'm all about advice. Is there any other nuggets of advice that you would like to give other artists or creatives or comics who are listening to?
Yes. Let me think about this real quick. Oh, don't do that. be as funny as possible. Like spend as much time focusing on being funny. Like that's like my number one advice. Be as funny as possible. Number two is be nice to everybody. Be kind to everybody. You don't have to like, if you don't like chit chat or networking, that's okay. Just like stand in the back of the room quietly. Tons of comics do that. No one minds. But just be kind to people and just drink as much as possible at open mics. Just drink, get so drunk that you don't remember. No, I'm kidding. Whoa, rule of threes, baby. Make the third one funny. Yes. No. You should drink though if you want to. It's fun. I've done stand up. It's nice to have a beer in you when you do stand up. But no, what I was gonna say is when you're at like shows or open mics, like definitely seek out comics that will help you and answer and ask questions like where you feel comfortable. Don't be insulted if people don't want to talk to you. But also when you talk to those comics, and this is a mistake I made big time, don't complain about shit. Like don't complain about, well, I mean, to an extent, I'll listen to people complain because I don't mind. But like, just, it's okay to seek reassurance and like ask questions about what's going on, but try to accept the way things are. This is all like pre-COVID advice. I don't know what's happening now. I hope that live comedy continues soon. I don't know
it will.
I don't know. Right. But everything's going to be different. You know what I mean? Everything is going to be different. The world as we do comedy now or did comedy is just not going to happen that way. So all of my advice, I think, will eventually be relevant. In the meantime, as we all figure it out, like if you're someone out there who wants to try stand up, now is not the best time, but there are all kinds of like webinars happening and comedians that like have time on their hands and are going live and talking about comedy. Like just like seek out. I am and was, especially before I started stand-up, such a comedy nerd. Like now I feel like I don't take in as much content because I'm just busy and like my brain is doing other things. But just take in as much comedy as you can. Like watch old specials. Like just enjoy it.
Good. Thank you. So Wanda, where can people find you? Besides South Philly with your cat.
Yeah. Don't come find me here. That would be so creepy.
Yeah, that'd be really
yeah. I have a website, hannahtrav.com, but mostly my best platform is Instagram at Wanda Cheeseburger. I'm on Twitter at Hannah Trav. I have a podcast called Keep You Posted that's on like all the major networks. And then I have this YouTube video, but I don't know what my YouTube channel is called. I've been trying to figure this out. Like, I don't know how to direct people to my YouTube. Like, it's not like at Hannah Travers. Like, I don't know how it works. Oh. So, go to my Instagram and the link is there. This is a lot of web searching and internet.
That's fine. That's the life we have now.
But I'm around and I love Instagram. Just follow me on Instagram. That would be so cool.
Instagram people. All right. Wanda Cheeseburger. Yeah. All right, Hannah Trav, Wanda Cheeseburger.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks so much for stopping by, and
thanks for having me.
I hope to see you on stage one day soon.
I hope. Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Check out my Instagram at CAM_A_B. Also, if you want to learn a little bit more about me and see what I'm all about, check out CameronAB.com. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.